Hey everyone, welcome to the Melbourne Agile and Scrum meetup. Welcome to Envato. My name is Jay. I'm one of the delivery coaches here at Envato, and thanks for coming along tonight. Do you know we do a lean coffee here at Envato once a month? No. Yeah, once a month we do a lean coffee. Tell us more. Cool. It's remote friendly. It's really early. It's 7:30 in the morning, which scares a lot of people. But we are making it remote friendly, and we are experimenting with that. So you can, and it's cool if you want to join in your pajamas. We totally accept that. So if you'd like to know more about it, you want to talk, you want to bounce an idea around lean, agile, systems thinking, hit me up and I'll get you an invite. So yeah, welcome to Envato. Over to you, Craig.
Hey everyone, how you doing? We've been running it for 8 years. Is that correct, Ed? Who's Ed?
7.
7 years. So is this year number 7? Right. And we host them at Swinburne University. There's a story about that, and I'll tell you in a minute. Here's our rough program for tonight. So here's the program, right? So I'm going to ask you why you came here in a minute, but what I'm going to do is tell you what Ed and I think last conference is about. I'm going to tell you what we're looking for, content-wise, and for 2018 here in Melbourne. It's not specific things, but I'm going to give you examples. And we're going to talk about not just the ideas, but the way we like to have things done at last conference. So, you know, games and workshops and stuff like that. Little thing on the attributes of a good session. I'm going to ask you to help us increase the diversity of content through not only your own submissions, but by finding other people and helping them to contribute to the process. So to start with, I just thought I'd tell you where last conference comes from. Like back in 2011, Ed went up to Sydney and went to Agile Tour. Agile Tour is a unconference, right? Where you just turn up, you figure out what you want to do. And he came back from that and he's like, oh, we should do that in Melbourne. It's so awesome. It was really great, really creative, a lot of learning going on. Meanwhile, we had been facilitating and hosting a crap load of meetups for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years here in Melbourne around the Agile stuff. And so we had a lot of people we knew a lot of people who had stood up in front of crowds of people like you and said, here's a thing, and here's another thing, and you should do this, or think about this, right? And so we had a great little network of people that we grabbed onto, and we invited them all to come together for a day. People came together and we had, I think, 8 tracks or 6 tracks or something, and lots of stuff during the day, and people had a really good day. And so we went, let's do it again, right? And the first year we had, I think, 120 people turn up, and the second year we had about 180. The third year we had, 400. The 5th year we had like 900, and we were like, oh, I think we broke it because it was too big. Then we made it a bit smaller, and then last year we were up to 900 again, I think. I don't know if that adds up to the right numbers, but that's roughly how it went. So they're the things that we think about when we're talking about last conference. So, it's our colleagues in the Melbourne industry, sharing knowledge and experience with each other. What we're after is just the people that work in the city, right? And by the way, consultants are valuable because they bring a really interesting breadth of perspective, because they chop around, they see different experiences, and through that they kind of identify patterns and structures that kind of shared, right? And they're good at quickly recognizing a situation and solving a problem. So there's huge insights in that. But there's also huge insights from being in the trenches and facing ugly situations and just having to problem solve your way through them to get to the end, right? So there's lots of good stuff that comes from both, full-time employees and from consultants, but we try to keep that ratio a bit like that. So there's a smattering of consultants, but most people are just Joe worker, just like you, just like me, who turn up and do a job. So born out of the meetup community here in Melbourne, and it still is the essence of where it comes from. A lot of the people that come will come from the meetups. A lot of people that speak at it, I reach out to organisers from the meetups, a lot of the different meetups, and I say, hey, in the last year, who are the best 2 or 3 presenters, speakers, sessions that you had? And then they say, try this person, try that person. Then I hit them up, and if they're available, they'll come, and if they don't, well, they don't. But that's how we kind of reach out and try to go more than just, the Agile crowd. So each year we step back and we look at what happened in the last couple of years, and we go, what new stuff do we want in there? And funnily enough, I don't have each year I've looked for stuff that's not in the usual industry conversation, and I've tried to find interesting, weird stuff that isn't part of the program, and I've gone and found those people and met them and talked them into turning up and doing some stuff. There's, you might remember Sean, the storytelling guy. This year I haven't got my head on anything, so if you've got any suggestions about weird stuff, let me know. It's good to bring in the highfalutin big picture frameworky stuff because there's an appetite to hear that sort of stuff. Scaled Agile frameworks had years of people kind of piling out and pitching the ideas and stuff. So if somebody wants to do something about that right now, I would say don't necessarily just kind of bring the big picture and talk about it. Instead, let's kind of, I don't know, workshop the planning day, right? Or let's talk about something specific in it and drill into it because we're past the introductory stage and now we want to focus on the pragmatic skills of making it work, right? And the same goes for design, UX, software development, right? You know, the big picture stuff, I think we all get, but not all of us do, so I'm wrong. So there's like a space for the high level big picture stuff, but really what we want you to do is turn up and focus on basics, right? Focus on pragmatic skills. And we did, the other day, we talked about, should we give the conference a theme this year? We came, you know, just talking over lunch, and we came up with the idea of level up, right? And so we want the value prop of the conference this year to be level up. When we first wrote up the conference, it was by practitioners, for practitioners. We don't want to do Agile 101 stuff, so if you're a beginner to that, just don't come, right? And that's what we said for the first couple of years. And then last year, a few people came to us and said, it feels a bit exclusionary, it feels a bit elitist. And also we looked around at you guys and went, you're getting older and more boring. So we need to get new people into the network. And so we changed the angle a bit. And so rather than like, you know, by practitioners, for practitioners, yes to that. And rather than don't come if you're a beginner, right? We went, screw it, right? If it's focused on pragmatic, simple things, anyone can turn up, learn something from other people in the network, and then just like build a skill, right? Or build 3 skills, whatever. But it's about just getting better than what you were the week before. Acquire new knowledge, try something new, you know, increase your appetite for learning and improving, whatever it is. Right? So they're the things that we're thinking about, and that's our motivation. I like that picture, but it's nothing to do with what I'm going to tell you. I told you Ed and I started the conference many years ago. Our motivation was, you know, the inspiration was Agile Tour. You know, we wanted to make it accessible, so we made it cheap. And we run it as 2 days. So at first it was 1 day, 1 day, 1 day. Last year we made it 2 days. We found that was very successful. The reason we went to 2 days is because everyone used to say, there's so much going on. I wish I had a chance to see, like, you know, throughout the day, I want to be there, but I also want to be there. So we say to the speakers, can you come both days and can you just repeat your session? And so last year we tried that out and we got some pretty good feedback about that. So we're going to try to do the same thing again, right? So as many of the sessions as we can, just repeat them on both days so people have a chance to go to both. People ask, what help do you want? I'd like to be involved. I'd like to help out. I love the event. I want to participate, right? So we keep it super lean. We don't do a lot of support. We don't do things like people with microphones introducing you, or, you know, people ushering people in and out of doors, or we don't, like, you know, time keep you. It's all up to you. When you're a speaker at last conference, you got a piece of paper and it says when you start and when you finish, and you start and you finish within that bracket. If you don't, the next person turns up and throws you out. Give yourself a buffer, give yourself some blank space because something always goes wrong. You find a tangent that you want to go down to, the AV goes wrong, somebody asks a really awkward question, something will happen. So just plan to only fill 60 to 70% of the time that you go for, right? But we do want some help on the day. One of the best helps that we get is, well, the two most valuable things people can do on the day is, one is when 800 people all turn up within half an hour and we're registering with Eventbrite phone apps, if a handful of people, and a bunch of you guys have done that, if a handful of people turn up, just help us process people as they're arriving, and then we shuffle them into a big lecture hall, and then that just like helps us kind of relieve a bottleneck. And the other one is at the end of the day, cleaning up the mess. So we just get, you know, usually we enlist speakers in that, but we just get like about 8 people and we just sweep through the space. We just put rubbish in bins and put chairs and tables in an orderly fashion, and then we're good. And then everyone goes up to the pub and has dinner and drinks and stuff like that. So if you want to help with that sort of stuff, I'm not going to ask you to let me know now, but on the group Slack channel, you just get in touch with Ed or me. You can get on the last channel, and we'll organise that. So speaking of Slack channels, anyone here not on the group Slack channel, like the Tabar Events Slack channel? We have a Slack group, and it's just whenever we do events, we add all the people to it, and then it's just a place where during the event you can chat about ideas. We can broadcast information between events. You get people chatting to each other, and every so many weeks, Ed's like can you just like stop spamming people with noise and just go off to a quiet channel where only the interested people are there? But that's nice, right? It's a place to connect. There's a channel for looking for jobs. There's a channel for asking for questions. There's all sorts of interesting things going on there. Get into it. But that's also where the organisers, anyone that's involved in organising as a speaker or as a person that's going to pick up garbage, whatever your job is, we need you in there because that's where we do all the communication. So if you want to be a general helper, we don't need that many people, but we do need a few. Right. We're also going to ask a handful of people to help us with the sorting and scheduling. So at the moment, we've begun the process of eliciting submissions. And in a few weeks, towards the beginning of June, we're going to ask a handful of people to get together one day and just sort through some stuff. So we will go out to a handful of people. Generally, what we would do is in the Slack channel, we'll go, hey, who wants to be a helper? And then it'll be something along the lines of first come, first serve, or it'll be like, we'll pick sort of, that's how we're going to organise that. What do you guys want to do? What's your goal tonight?
I'm curious to know about what we think the audience might want to know about. Then I can look in my little tool bag and see if I've got anything interesting there to pull out for submission. So that's what I'd like to know. Anyone else?
Plus one.
Plus one? Plus one?
So a couple of months ago, I ran into this website that showed me what LAST was. I didn't know what it was like a few months back, and then I was really intrigued that, wow, there are people in the community in Melbourne that know what Agile is. They're really passionate about things and, like-minded people. And that's the reason why I've been going to meetups at Envato, at AGL, here and there, just to get in touch with such people so that, being in close proximity with smart people, so that you become smart as well.
You came to the wrong room.
And then I will also want to be a speaker in one of those conferences, if not this year, maybe next year as well. But then there's just a small ripple effect to create a bigger ripple maybe tomorrow.
Fantastic. Yeah. Why are you here?
Why am I here?
What do you want to get out of the night?
Well, first of all, I want to know when the submissions open. And I guess they've already opened.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But I also, second or third or fourth, wherever we're at, I've got an idea what I might do this year.
Yep.
But I'm just trying to figure out whether that's actually going to be valuable and useful for the community. So I think it might be. But
cool.
That's why.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about topic, but it seems to be a really simple one. So
Simple good.
Yeah, I'm here to
Simple
just
good.
take the temperature and see if it can be interesting.
I'll tell you what's overdone. And we still want these contents at the conference. We just don't want 30 submissions on the topic. Retrospectives, right? Transformation case studies where everything went really well.
Is there one?
Very polite.
Yeah.
How coaching helps, right? Those, and we always. I'm kind of halfway on design thinking, right? It's like a lot of people pitch it, but it's probably an important topic. So it's just like, how do you? Maybe it's like those frameworky things where rather than just like design thinking as a big chunky thing, we need to drill into it, right? So there are three things that I think have been done a lot, right? Yeah. What about you? Why are you here?
To talk about maybe things out of the business world, maybe more to do with the personal life, how we can change that through Agile.
Right.
Thinking about, I was that guy that did some of those high level kind of, this is what a transformation looked like. Yeah, we had some failures in there as well, but
I'll reiterate that like some are useful, but like when I'm looking at all the contents and I get like dozens of the same thing, it becomes hard.
So some of the model stuff, but this time thinking the next conference, I want to dig down into some really practical takeaway stuff. So sort of looking back on some of those things and thinking, where can I dig down into real specifics? So that was what I was thinking about.
I haven't been to the last conference before. I'm a returnee to Melbourne, so I'm intending to go for the first time this year. And I guess I'm kind of interested in sort of like the L and the ST part of what the last conference might be intended for, because there's lots of offerings for agile conferences and agile training and that sort of stuff, but not so much around lean and systems thinking. So I'm sort of interested in whether there's actually really intending to be any content in those areas.
Well, the more the better, because we do underservice those.
I have a really good topic. I wanted to use Agile in a controlled environment, so I applied it to myself, and it's how I took 4 hours off my Ironman time and went from second to last to third in my age group, and how you can apply this and what's important to you and get the same results.
You know, Dan Prager did the same thing. He had a heart attack. He got there through trying agile techniques to build his fitness.
Yeah.
You just need a heart attack and then you
that's what I'm missing. That's what I'm missing. Thanks. Yeah.
I have attended last at least 4 times, if I'm not wrong, and I've always taken away heaps of stuff from those 4 days. This time I thought it's time to share what I want to share with the community. So I've got an idea which I want to present at last. And also I wanted to know how can I help in organizing and wherever I can be involved.
I'm trying to get a sense of where the community's at. Like, we've been doing this for 7 years. What is it that is going to be of major benefit to the community this time? I spent 3 years building a box of tricks, and I'm not sure which things to pull out are going to be of the best impact yet.
Yeah, right.
And there's a big push for DevOps. Now, I know there's probably a DevOps conference, but I don't know whether the DevOps would actually fit into a last conference at all. And if it is, whether we could have as one of the subjects. Maybe.
We've had a bunch of DevOps content in the past. I've always struggled to get enough technical content into the program. Like, the idea of last conferences is it's a cross-functional event. So it's, most of the conferences are, there's the project managers, there's the software developers, there's the testers, there's the product managers, there's the UX designers, right? And they don't talk to each other, and they all fulfill their wishes about how things were and bitch about those people in the other room. What we try to do with last conference is just put everyone in the same room, and sure, there's like the UX session over there and the DevOps session over there, but you get people walking into the other room to figure out. Several people have said in the feedback after the event, we always send a feedback survey out, and people come back and say, one of the things I really loved about it is I'm a product manager, and I was able to go into a room full of software developers and hear what they really think, right? And I'm an engineering manager, and I was able to go into the UX session and figure out why they do the strange things they do, right? And so it's an opportunity to learn about each other as well, not just new stuff in your own domain. Yeah, so DevOps stuff, for sure. It doesn't have to be business. It could be government. It doesn't have to be software development. It could be process improvement, right? So lean is lean, agile, systems thinking, right? And so we collected those things because when we put the program together, the first event, we went, let's not call it an agile conference because, agile's got an end date. Six Sigma had an end date. TQM had an end date. All those things have an end date, right? So we wanted to just make it a bit broader. And we went, all right, what else is interesting? And the lean stuff has been around for a long time, and it's probably like, email will never quite go away. And the systems thinking one is like kind of the intellectual version, right? No one really kind of knows how to describe it, but it's like a powerful set of thinking tools that can help you, make a difference to the way you understand work and improve it. So, yeah, excellent. So you're all interested in what do we want, what do we not want? So that's this section. I sat down in front of a spreadsheet and I went, if I was to design last conference, what would I do? And I went, all right, I'd do that. Right? I'm just going to let you look at that. They're just examples, right? It's not right. I'll give you the slide. I'll put it up online later. Yeah. You don't need to take a photo of my 9-point font. But, there's change management. There's I like to have things like just have a lean coffee session. Just get people in a room and don't have a strong agenda. Kelsey last year said, do a thing where everyone brings their team charts in, all the stuff that's on your wall. Just take a photo of it or bring a printed version and we whack it up on the wall and we talk about it and we learn about charts from each other. Lightning talks, lean change, what is it? Job titles. Do we do job titles right? Are they boxes we put people in or are they enablers? What are they? What's the issues going on there? So this is me, right? And a lot of their stuff in there is also getting back to basics because I think a lot of people go down rabbit holes. There's interesting stuff. What do tech leads do? Like, I've done this. Like, put architects in a room. People, like, you know, the room's crowded and people are hanging in the windows trying to hear what's going on. CTO panel, right? Get CEOs and founders and angel investors and stuff like that. There's a thing about aspirations. Like, a lot of people, when they go to the conference, they're looking for growing their career and where do they want to be and who inspires them and stuff like that. Strangely enough, you inspire other people, right? Look around. Why? Right? I just... But, you know, it's like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that, like, if you turn up to an event like this and you're actively interested in contributing to a community of professionals, there's no strong, real payoff for you doing it. You're inherently leaders, right? You know, people around look at you, you give advice, you give an opinion, and, you know, somehow you make sense of the chaos around you and other people are really appreciative of what you do. Everyone in this room is that in some way. So they're examples, but do whatever, right? Like, I think security is a thing that everyone cares about at the moment, so I would want to go and get some security content. And I will go and get some security content. Yeah. So just to be clear, we do want some sessions on coaching, and SAFE is fine, but I would think at this stage of the game, go deep on a particular aspect of SAFE. Don't just bring in the big picture and talk about what it is, right? So we want to focus on the craft, not on, like, the theory that might be not based on any evidence. People in the back are laughing, but the truth of the matter is you can make SAFE work, but it's not pedagogically sound, right? It's just a way of hanging a bunch of people around an idea so that you can get them focused on something, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
SAFE
it's
expert?
a framework.
Yeah. So what it is there's nothing in SAFE and many other ideas in the business world that is actually true. But what it is it's a convention that lets everyone come to an agreement, right, on how to operate together. Okay? So it's not particularly good or bad, but it's just a convention that, like, removes a bunch of conversations, and that's the real win you get out of this. So yes, SAFE is fine. Prefer you go deep into a particular part of it. Coaching absolutely has to be there. I just don't want 60 submissions about coaching, which is the usual experience. What's holacracy? I saw Sandy do a talk on holacracy yesterday, and, like, for the first time in 5 or 6 years, I've been, like, looking at holacracy just going, it just doesn't make sense to me. And then she, you know, half an hour yesterday, I just went, I get it, right? So, you know, and she did it because she had a case study, and she talked about the things they tried and the things that worked and the things that didn't work, and ultimately 2 pictures, and it all made sense. Right? So when you're looking to do things, there's a million things you could do. That's roughly the size of the program, right? So, yeah, that's roughly how many topics or things that they're looking for, objects of information and experience.
So, Craig, is this informed by feedback you had from previous conferences or conferences?
No.
Do you get that sort of feedback from the audience?
Yeah, we do get feedback about what people want, and what they want isn't what's good for them. Everyone wants scale. How do I scale? How do I scale? How do I scale? 7 out of 10 pieces of feedback on content is like, how do I scale? Right? And honestly, how you scale is you get good at the basics, right? And so, you know, our scaled agile framework expert at the back. I'm right though, aren't I? Am I right?
I'm not an expert. I'm definitely.
Oh, hang on.
I'm not an expert.
Our experienced scale, no, our expert scaled agile framework person, right? Our deep expert. But it's true, isn't it? Like, a lot of the essence of what, like, enables you to grow a delivery competency out to many, many people is just be good at basic things. And the basic things are know what your goal is, be good at your job, communicate well, right? And there's other things that you get to, which is like, don't be inward focused, you know, be aware of the group. So it's the first activity for the night. So I want you to grab the cards and your pens, right? And so we're just drafting up our proposal. So I'm just going to talk you through the questions. And as I'm talking, I want you to write. So the first thing I want you to know, why would you want to put something in front of other people? Why would you want to stand up in a room of people and, like, you know, educate them, right? Or share with them or whatever. What's your motivation to do that? Your motivation could be your company's hiring and you just need to get your face out there so that people know your company is hiring, right, Restec? Yeah. Or your motivation could be you learned something really, really interesting and you had a really interesting experience and you reflected on it a lot and you think, hey, there's something in there that could be good for other people, right, Rima? Or it could be, I put it in my professional development goals to, you know, be a public speaker and get out there and, like, you know, it's going to help me grow into the leader that I think I should be at work. So, you know, your motivation's why do you want to do this? And it's okay, it doesn't matter what it is, it's just like understand why, right? The second question is, what's your topic? Why do you think it's important? Right? So just write a note to yourself, what's your topic? Why do you think it's important to others? Next one's, who do I think this is for? And why do they need it? So to describe the demographic of last conference, if you had a microphone, Ed, I'd give it to you because you look at the surveys every year. But it's cross-functional, right? So there's software developers, product managers, project managers, business analysts, UX designers, testers, general managers, consultants, coaches, scrum masters, iteration managers, HR people, marketing people, those people that work in corporations that have jobs that you don't quite know what they are. So there's lots of different people that go there. Roughly 40%, you know, technical testers, developers, designers maybe. Roughly 40% soft skills people like product managers and project managers and stuff like that. And then there's like that extra 20%, which is like coaches and consultants and random people like me. Yeah, so that's the audience. They're the people that are going to turn up. So who's it for? Who are you writing for? What's the main lesson you hope to share? What's the point? What's the key learning objective in your thing? Because when you start like a presentation, you should know the end in mind. Not everything has a clear end, right? Sometimes it's exploratory and sometimes it's emergent, but like maybe, like I'll give you an example. And I'm going to use this example a couple of times. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, maybe it was, or a year ago, somebody dropped out, so I filled the slot. And I just went in there with a question. You know, why would I pay for an agile coach? Right? I'm a hiring manager, $34 million budget. Not a single iteration manager, scrum master, or coach on the team. Right? Why would I hire one? I didn't walk to all my friends in the agile community, all the coaches and, you know, consultants and stuff. Were you in the room for that one, Chris?
No.
You were. It wasn't a fishbowl. It was just a bunch of people standing in a room. You might have been in there, Liam. Were you there, Sue? Yeah. And so, what was my point? Oh, like I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but I had a problem that I needed to solve. So the outcome for me was, it wasn't the outcome for the audience. The outcome was for me, right? So I just wanted to hear what the professionals in the industry had to say, and then, you know, and as a side effect of that, the smart operators in the industry would then be speaking in front of each other about what they think is the value proposition of coaching. And so there was an outcome, but I didn't know what it was going to be, right? But it was like a group of people coming together and agreeing on, you know, generating a consensus around a thing. And the last point there, what's the best medium? Is the best medium a lecture? Is it a game? Is it arm wrestling? I remember at a meetup, not at a conference, but at a meetup several years ago, we did a thing in a bar. We had 80 people, and I was like, I bet we can get 80 people to agree on something inside 10 minutes. You think we could do that? We ran a game, and it was longer than 10, maybe it was 15 minutes. But we ran a game, and we gave everyone the objective of agreeing on something. It was like a specific topic. I can't remember what it was. And then inside 10 to 15 minutes, we had 80 people agree on something. So what have you got? Right? Have a look at the thing you've got and grab another person in the room. Okay, so you're all roughly in pairs. A few of you are off by yourself. Just check in with each other. Do it. Get out of your chair if you have to. Just pitch each other your ideas.
Hey, good.
Thanks. I know you ran out of time and you didn't get it done, but during that conversation, hopefully you had an idea to, because, you know, talking to someone else about it, like, it's better than writing it because it really tests that you a little bit, especially if there's questions come back and forth. So now you've got a raw idea of what you're going to put in as a submission for the conference, right? Now, some of you are good at writing conference submissions. You're really still wondering what's the right thing to do. So at the end of the day, it does become about like how many people pitch in the same idea. So the other thing is the format, right? So it's easy to get out in front of people and do something like slide, 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 right? How much of you love, why do you like slide presentations?
So basically, a presentation will help you to guide you through on the major steps of your speech. That's that should be useful.
So did you just mean to say, I like slides because it's a structured step through a process or an experience?
And to make sure that I don't miss a thing that I want to
So later you can get the slides and you can read them and check. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I think it also depends on the type of presentation it is.
Right.
Some presentations can be done only on slides, and the way I like to do it is I have no text in my slides, just images.
Yep.
That
presentation Zen style of like pictures and waterfalls.
Yeah, I make snippets of pictures that I create in MS Word, PowerPoint, blah, 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 and I have images in my slides.
Yep.
I think it's easy for me to reiterate my thoughts, but then activities, case studies, presentation, blah, blah, everything on the screen is also important, but I think that depends on the type of presentation, type of idea that you're sharing with the audience.
Good, good.
Gabor's got a question.
Build the content around the, hello, Gabor, go for it.
Yeah, so I just came back from Japan, and in Japan, you have to use pretty much slides, and you have to use as much text as possible. So almost like there are slides that I've seen that had like just 10 lines of text in Japanese and no picture at all, and every single slide was like that. So it's also a cultural thing, but we can relate better to pictures. But in Japan, like they asked me to put more text on my slides.
Well, let's just be clear, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
Another thing to remember is never use transitions in slides. They just get in the way when you decide you don't want to use that one. You think that's funny, but I actually put this slide in specifically for that point. Okay, so there's these different methods, right? So presentations, case studies, discussions, games, activities, workshops, and explorations, right? So going from left to right, it's kind of more immersive, more experiential, and it's going to deliver a richer learning experience on the left than it is on the right, generally. However, you're right. Some topics are best delivered through slides, and some topics are best delivered through interaction and games and stuff like that. So be mindful of what you're trying to do and choose the best format. Usually when we take submissions for the conference, like 80% of people want to do a presentation with slide decks. Makes me sad, right? Because we know that is better than that. And we also know spending 2 days sitting in front of slides and case studies and whatever, people their brains fill up and they just can't. You ask them what they saw during the day and they can't remember, right? So, if we mix up the style of delivery, then they can have different experiences and it's much easier for them to process it and, retain it, right? And you're much more likely to retain it if you use it. I can't remember. I bet one of the smart people in the room, I'm looking at you, Chan, knows the academic stuff behind like how long it takes for you to forget things. Like, is it 50% of stuff gets forgotten if you don't use it in 4 hours or some random number like that? You know the real numbers?
Yeah, something like that. If you don't repeat it within, I think a few times in the 1 week, you'll forget it as well.
Yeah. So
you have to repeat it afterwards.
You really got to be hands-on, and you really got to then have homework to go and do within the next few days. And so when you're designing content for people, give them jobs to do and get them to follow up and do it the next day or do it at home, right? And if you're doing a session and it's actually better than everyone else's, you should get them to come back to your same session the second day, and then get them to repeat the things so they can really figure it out. But you guys, have you seen Simon Sinek? Yeah. Right, have you seen this particular talk? Gabor did talk at first conference, I think it was. You can nod along, right? And he had a topic, and I had met Gabor, but I'd never seen him speak in person. And I'm just wiping the beer off with my sock. And he's never, and I said, Gabor, we've got all these professional paid speakers at the event, international speakers. You're just some guy from the local meetup network. Are you really gonna step up to the standard that's required at that conference? Did I say that to you? Wasn't I an asshole? Because what he did is he just went, you know, that's a good piece of advice. And then he went and studied and he researched and he read and he looked at YouTube clips and all that sort of stuff, didn't you? And then, I know, he's good at this. And then when he delivered his speech at the conference, it was like the one just after lunch, not the one right after lunch, but the one just after that. You know, the one where your food is settled and you're dozing and you're looking out the window and wondering what you're going to do tomorrow. He was in the worst slot in the day, right? And when I'm programming the content for last, if you're in that slot, just kidding. He got a standing ovation. Did you get a standing ovation? It wasn't everyone in the room, but like there was a good third of the people stood up and clapped his event, right? And of course, it wasn't the content, it was the way it was delivered, right? So there's a bunch of YouTube clips and I'm going to share out with this slide deck a reading list of sorts, like a YouTube video clip list, and Gabor, you feel free to jump in and add to it as well. It's things about structure. It's things about the narrative arc of your presentation. It's all that sort of stuff, right? Some of you guys are quite good presenters, I know that. But even still, revisit some of this stuff. And it's you know, structure, right, creates a vehicle for your content to be most effective, right? So do pay attention to it. This video from Simon Sinek is kind of obnoxious and annoying, in my view. But yeah, a lot of people think he's very good and wise and intelligent and all that sort of stuff. But like, it's actually quite good. And just pay attention to structure, because if you're doing a straight presentation, structure really matters, right? If after you've seen all these videos and read all those books, you reflect on the session that I'm doing tonight, you'll see the gap. Right? But a good structured thing enables your message to really land so well.
Right. Put the link to that in the meetup.
Yeah.
After this, yeah.
So we'll put the slide deck up, linked into the meetup notes, and we'll put the links to the videos up in the meetup notes and all that sort of stuff. So that'll be there, if not tonight, tomorrow. So you can come and get all the homework stuff. Essentially, what Sinek says, see you, Chris. Essentially, what Sinek says is like, know what you want to say, tell a story, have a clear point of view, a strong point of view. Don't just turn up. Like, I went to a conference, and a dude turned up, and he'd read a book, and he told everyone part of what was in the book, right? And he didn't reveal any personal insights, and he didn't talk about how he had used it. He just talked about the framework of the model in the book. And I was just like, why did you occupy 45 minutes of 100 and something people's lives when they could have just read that chapter themselves, right? Have your own story injected into what you're telling other people. Have your stake. Show why you care, right? And of course, there's a whole bunch of other things, right? Storyboard the presentation. Yeah, consider the narrative arc of the thing, all that sort of stuff. And of course, consider no slides, right? So plenty of great speakers do no slides, right? They're great as a crutch. I'm using these as a crutch tonight. I'm looking at this to keep me focused on the right thing and doing the right thing in the right order. You know, if you really know your stuff, right, you probably don't need slides. Or if you do, you're going to use those like 6 pictures, right? I did a talk at Agile Australia last year. Phil Gudzinski was my coach, because I got like someone to pay attention to the content that I was putting together. And I just did the first draft like I always did. And I just throw every idea into a slide, one idea per slide, right? And then I just throw them in as they come to me. And the next thing I do is I organize them into a sort of the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? And then I go, there you go, there's my presentation. And look at that, I've got like a half an hour and it's only 172 slides. So I sent that to Phil and he was like, yeah, I've seen you do public speaking. That's, But of course, like when I was finished, it was 5 slides, right? Because, you just throw all the stuff away and, you're going to say it. You know what you want to say. You don't need a slide to say what you're going to say, right? The slides just augment and support, right? Having said that, because I'm only doing this once and I didn't spend a lot of time prepping for it, it's my crutch tonight. So this is what using a slide deck as a crutch looks like, right? Sorry? Does anyone want to give me shit?
This is what not to do.
This is what not to do, right? I like case studies. Case studies are really good, but only when they're done right. Now, several of you have done case studies. Chris just walked out, he's done plenty of them. You've done a few. A few of you other guys have done case studies as presentations as well, right? Telling the story is okay, but you can make it so much better, right? So have you guys heard of the Harvard Business School's case study style? Yeah? Right? So the way I interpret it, we're all, yeah, we interpret things. The way I interpret it is you set up the story, right? So you tell the story of like, there was this thing and there were these people, and amongst the people there was Susan, there was Craig, there was Rumer, right? And Susan's agenda was this, and Craig was trying to do that, and Rumer was trying to do this. And through telling those stories, you see the conflict emerge, right? And you set up the situation. And then you go, right, I told you the setup. Now you're all smart people. You're not novices. You know what's going on, right? You know the theory, right? You know, fast feedback loops, visualize the work, level out the power relationships, all that sort of stuff. You all know that, right? So now I've set up the thing. Break up into groups of 4 or 5 and have a conversation and use your knowledge of theory to say what should happen next, right? And then rather than the presenter just presenting, all of a sudden the room's just spending 5 minutes or so talking amongst themselves, using their brain, trying to solve a puzzle, and they're doing it with a couple of other people, right? And then you can step back from that. They can all talk. You know, not sip your beer. And then you can say, room, what did you come up with, right? And they say their thing, and you say their thing, and they say their thing. You know how that goes, right? And then everyone like also gets the chance to express the things, and and so it's another loop in learning, and the groups are listening to each other, and they're kind of listening to say, did they come up with the same result as us? If somebody came up with something radically different, then someone in that group is going, right? So you get all this extra thinking going on by taking this approach. Only then do you go, right, that's really interesting. Thank you very much for your contribution. Now I'll tell you what really happened, right? And now I'll tie it back to what organizational theory or behavioral psychology or whatever topic it is says should have happened, right? So then you can close out with a reconciliation of like, so you thought that, this is what really happened, and because I'm the expert in the room, my statement about what the relevant theory is most authoritative. And then, what do we learn from that as a group class, right? So that's a really, really strong help. Have you done it that way?
No, I'm just taking notes that I should be doing it.
Right. So I think it was Eduardo No Fuentes. 2 years ago, he came to the last conference and he was like, I'm going to do a case study. I'm like, Eduardo, don't do it. He's like, what do you mean? And I told him like my frustration with case studies. They can be so much better. And he went, oh, and I told him this, and he went, I'll try it out. And he did it. And he came up immediately after. He hunted me, found me in amongst those 1,000 people at the conference. He's like, Craig, that was amazing, right? Because he didn't have people sitting there passively listening. He had them actively engaged. And at the end of it, like, a bunch of them are like, oh, and they're telling him what they would have done and what their thoughts are. And at their workplace, they've got the same situation. They can connect the dots now. And so it was so much more powerful. So if you're doing case studies, think about that approach. So because I'm unable to read what I wrote. Going back to your ideas, right? So if you can connect back to the buddy that you were with before, right? I want you to think about, like, whatever you've got there is related to something that you've experienced in the past. And I want one of you to take a case study approach and try to follow that arc, right? So this is just a simplified version of it, right? So just take 5 minutes. One of you is going to talk through it to the other. And what I want you to do is just experience it with each other. Right? I'm sure many of you didn't finish that activity, but what did you think about the approach? What was your experience?
I was actually thinking that the idea that I want to talk about can only be done through a presentation. But when I was going through those questions and answering them in context, like taking my topic as context, I can actually represent it as a case study, and that sounded much more interesting.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anyone else got a reflection or an outcome?
In terms of which topics to turn into case studies, looking at mine, because my dilemma is which one to do out of a bunch. The key thing is that it's a common enough experience that people would actually be able to contribute.
Right. Because they have to have access to some thinking framework to solve the puzzling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sue?
And no, what I learned was when we are presenting or we're thinking about presenting, everyone has a different way of approaching something.
Yeah.
So I actually learned something different from that. And I've gone, oh, actually, that's quite useful, you know. So that was quite good. But also just, yeah, I think it's bearing in mind the audience thinks differently to you.
Yeah.
Just driving that home for me. Yeah, it's really good.
Audiences are different.
Yes. They don't think like you.
So cool. So from Sue, it was Sue's story, and what I learned from it was if you present to me the story with the solution up front, then I'm already bored. So it was more helpful when Sue unpacked her story for the beginning, the drama, the unsolved conflict. Then I was interested. Then how did you solve this problem? So that's what I learned.
That's what it's there to do, right?
Okay, I have a question. And the question is, should we teach something during each session? Or, because my idea was, I shared it with Paul, that we might have a good session about just sharing our problems with each other without trying to solve it based on the textbook. Because when we go to the sessions, people say, okay, you can do this, you can do retro like that. But most of the Scrum Master iterations, they know it's not like, boom, shakalan, tomorrow we have a good agile team and they follow everything. So I think it's a good idea if we sit together and just share our problems and how hard it is to transform from waterfall to agile. And just, if we have any experience on that, we can share with each other, but not try to just code, okay, in Scrum guide said this and this. No, just based on real experience that how hard it is. Just feel that we are not alone. We are not the only people that don't have.
What you're talking about there is like not every situation, not every piece of content is right for a case study approach.
I think so, yeah.
There's other ways to do things, absolutely. Yeah. Back to the box.
So I've had the benefit of doing a lot of the Harvard case studies years ago, and and they're all like incredibly well written around a sort of style of presenting the problem, and anyway, it's all about here's a whole bunch of stuff that led up to this particular point, and then it stops, and that's you then get into the mode of, well, what do you all think? What should we do now? And then it all, you go away, you do your breakouts, and then you come back and it then goes, and this is how it actually played out, sort of thing. As we were going through the example here, of course, we started with a bit of a narrative, and we weren't quite sure where the intercept point is.
Right.
And I kind of like the point of maybe there isn't an end of the story yet. This is, you might have some subject material where it's, I've gotten to this point now, and I don't know what the future is, and I want to engage with all these people here to hear your thoughts. It's almost a chance to get some sort of free consulting input from your colleagues in the community, right?
Absolutely.
As well.
So that's the same point. Not every piece of content. Well, let's have a look at the next one, right? So the next hackathon. Hey, by the way, I'll come back to that. So yeah, there are different ways to approach it. So there's a discussion, right? So a couple of years ago, I said, prove to me that hiring an agile coach is a good idea. I got some really compelling evidence that it was. I got some slides here that says, what does a good conversation look like? There's the design thinking double diamond. It's like, as a facilitator, you'll open up the conversation, generate a lot of ideas, and as a facilitator, you'll eventually close it down so that people feel like they got to an end. It didn't just end, kind of a blurry mess, right? So if you run a discussion type approach, you just need to be a good facilitator. But you don't necessarily have to have a clear outcome in mind. You just have to be able to guide the conversation to get to an end point. What other methods would you use apart from the ones listed there, right? So you can do panels, you can do interviews, you can do sit in a circle and talk to each other. I should have put retrospective as a form. Anyone else?
Visual map.
Visual map?
Visual mapping or visual collaboration.
Yeah, visual collaboration, fantastic.
Live drawing.
Sorry?
Live drawing.
Live drawing.
Live
drawing. Oh,
drawing.
Like sketchnoting stuff.
Yep.
Oh, that's it. Sorry, I'm deaf in one ear, so I don't. So give me a wave. Yeah, so sketchnoting or live drawing a conversation. Yeah.
You can prepare up front a few slides, and you can kind of hide and unhide, and you can draw a few things, but have some things pre-prepared. So
and you can take a half an hour or 40 minutes, but you could walk in with like 3 slides to kind of set the scene, right?
Yeah.
So and then you put some information down, which is the platform for a conversation, and then you let people run with it. So there's lots of different ways you can run a conversation. I think the important thing is turn up with a structure, right? So some anti-patterns in like open conversation types is like when somebody turns up and they already know the answer. Right? Have you ever been in one of those conversations? right? You know what they're doing, right? They're just railroading their point of view into everyone else's head, and that doesn't work. That's shitty. That's bullying. That's being an arsehole. But be genuinely curious, facilitate, but you're there to facilitate because you're seeking an answer. You're not there to tell everyone. So, really hold back on your own opinion and just like watch the room and make sure that everyone's contribution is heard. You guys are smart, good facilitators generally, so you know how to elicit the quiet people into the conversation, and you know how to shut down the loud people, but just like be cognizant that needs to be done. So have a structure, right? Guide the conversation, but also probably one of the more important things is like watch the time and get to an end.
Yeah.
Right? Because people hate it where the bell rings and you have to just stop, right? They want to get to closure, right? Games. So a couple of weeks ago here we ran lean something or other.
Get Kanban? Well, that was
No, not Get Kanban, but there's the
Lean
Get
startup
Kanban
game.
board.
Yeah.
Lean.
Something like that. Lean startup game.
Lean startup game. I can't remember. It's a board game. There's Lego games. There's card games. There's lots of different games, right? Like why games are good is they create a constrained environment. Like there's rules, right? And there's like objects like board games or cards or whatever, right? So it's not going to go just anywhere. It's a constrained environment, and people are thinking about the systems and the interactions and the consequences. But one of the most powerful things about games is it gets people to ideally collaborate. There's competition games like Monopoly, but there's also lots of collaboration games, and a lot of the training games in the Agile and Lean space are collaboration games. And so they encourage people to exchange information, work with each other, and solve things together. And they're also they're a limited version of simulations, so they're a really powerful tool. And on top of that, like during the course of a day, when you run games, those of you that have been in the training game, you know at the end of it, you run this exercise that you've run like 50 times, and you go, so what have you learned from that? And every single time you do it, somebody says something that you never expected, right? So they're open learning activities as well. They're not directed. You're not giving them, this is the goal, hit the target. You're going, run this activity, and based on the knowledge and experience that you've brought to the table today, what did you learn, right? And then people's experience will generate something new. So that chart there just gives you an example. Like the purple one is like the amount of learning that happens when you've got games going on, right? So yeah, and the other things are like more kind of fuzzy things. So an example of a game, a really simple game. Well, there are so many. But no, this isn't Kanban games. 5 minutes. Yeah, Kanban game. Yeah. So an example of that is, there's the paper plane game, the elephant carpaccio game, the marshmallow game. You guys know them, right? There's the. I'm just going to skip to the next page. You see it? Yeah. Yep. Everything's gone weird. All right. So I was going to give an example of that one where you write your name down, but I won't do it. Instead, I just also highlight this picture. When you do design games, think about this, right? What's the skill level required? What's the skill level that's going to be present? What's the challenge level in the game? And try to land in that zone, because that then gives you a good learning outcome. If you're sitting over here, people are just like frustrated or annoyed or stressed or whatever, and they're not really learning. So you've got to put them in a place where they're challenged but not stressed. So be thinking about that as well. Right, so match it to the audience. Now, if you know who the audience is, that's great. Design a game, right? For instance, Susan, you've been in this industry for a long time. You know the sort of people that turn up to conferences. You design a game for a conference really easily. You know exactly what to do. Any of you other guys trainers in the room? So you'd have good experience with it. You know what to do. If you've never done a game before, I'd say go to the conference a couple of times first, get a vibe for the level of the audience, and then you can do it. Right? Like if you want to go to a conference and you want to run a game and you've never done it before, but you really do want to do it, go to Tasty Cupcakes. There's a whole list of industry-related games that trainers and coaches and stuff reach into and grab. Just browse through, pick one. You actually practice it with your team at work, get it done so you know how to facilitate it, and then just come. Like games are good, right? When you submit content to this conference, if you say it's a game, you're guaranteed to get a slot, because usually 2 people submit a game, right? But I want like 10 or 12 or something like that. So what does a good session look like? Not too many slides. Ask yourself these questions. So I'm giving you a checklist here, right? But you're going to do the work. But make your own. Think about what quality looks like. Think about what a good outcome looks like. And then check yourself, check your presentation, check the submission review, against the criteria. Right? Ultimately, the most important thing is we're delivering value to other people. So the other thing is we want you to bring other people in, right? So when we do the conferences, same old people, it's boring. Find new people, encourage them, sponsor them, support them, encourage them to put content into the program, right? So out of the industry, you know, people in their 20s, you know, how many people are sick and tired of hearing white men in their 50s tell you how to do their job? You know, bring your weirdness as well, right? So, you know, bring your own individuality to the thing, right? But also find other people that you think are interesting and bring a fresh point of view and get them involved as well. That would be great. Ed signs us up to a whole bunch of diversity charters and accessibility, you know, promises and all that sort of stuff. And it's really, really hard because we're fundamentally the technology industry. It's really, really hard to just get gender up. Like we really work hard to try to get content delivered by more than 30% of women. We get to a point where it's like 23% through the natural kind of, you know, they come to us approach, then we have to start ringing and emailing and hunting people down. At the same time, you want people with good quality content and interesting stories and the ability to deliver, right? So there's that. And then, you know, just yesterday I was having a conversation about, well, it's all very well to do gender diversity, but what about people with accessibility issues, the deaf, the blind, the autists, right? So there needs to be proper diversity in the program that goes beyond one metric. So if you can think about options and ideas, even if they're crazy, just pitch them, encourage them. If you want to get in touch with me to encourage someone, happy to do so. Right. So this is the closeout. So did you get what you came for? You were looking for what content do you want? I focus more on like the approach, right? I said some things that we get drowned with, right? I've hinted that I like pedagogically sound, I love that word, pedagogically sound content, right? Because a lot of content in our space is bullshit. You know that, don't you? But otherwise, we want you to be diverse and we want you to pitch your ideas and there's like all sorts and oriented pragmatic skills. Everything that you know is useful to someone, right? Like, so you don't know who's coming. There's all these different people with different learning experiences and different histories to you. They're all looking for some insight, inspiration. Bring it along. I have to say the stuff about personal learning, right? Like I took my agile things, my exercise regime or my living at home or whatever. You know, I could buy you because you're an expert speaker, right? But if you're a rookie, just stick to the work content because you've got to think about what the people are coming for, right? So they're looking for solving problems at work. So it's cool to have stuff like that, but like we only want a little bit of it because most people come in to solve work problems, right? And the best thing you can do if you're going to hit that topic is like, really strongly draw the correlation between, it's a universal principle and at work that you're doing this. That's what you get that already, but like that's what people are looking for. So you got to be clear about the connection. Things that are weird when we look at the content and the feedback. Some people are really right on the money and they know something really obscure and they're really accurate and it breaks all kind of conventional expectations, right? Totally down with that. You just got to be brave because the audience is going to challenge you. Okay, so that I think I'm done. I've told you all the things we're looking for. I've told you like diversity in content, diversity in the style of stuff that we do. On this slide deck, on this particular page, there's links to the content from all the other pages, from all the other events in past years. So you can go look at the stuff that people have talked about in the past. Stuff that's been there before is welcome again, right? Because if story mapping was really useful in 2011, why isn't it useful today? Of course it is, right? So if, wait to the shortest job first was useful in 2013, it's probably still useful today. So, so that's it. So that's what we got. So hopefully the little exercise you got there got you started and ready to submit. On the website, somewhere, there is a link that says submissions. So you see, there it is. Right, so you click onto that, and then you get to an app called ConfEngine. ConfEngine is a conference management system. It runs the schedule and it publishes the schedule and it gives us a workflow to review and approve content for the schedule and to put it into a room and do all that sort of stuff. So everyone that's going to talk at last conference is going to put their stuff in there. We don't want to do it for you because Ed and I run the conference and there's two of us and it's hard work if we're trying to deal with all the stuff that's going on. Those of you that have been to last conference, you know that we don't really know how to say no. So we program a million things at once and it gets really busy, which is great. because it gives people diversity and it gives people options and it gives people choices to make. The way that process works is you submit an idea, right? And then it goes into a kind of a workflow thing. The content you put in there is public to anyone that goes to the Conference website, so they can look at it and they can see other people's content submissions, so you can have a look at what other people are putting in. You can comment them, you can vote for it. Ultimately, I, and maybe 2 or 3 other people, are going to make choices about what goes into the program. But we'll also do things like message back and forth, right? Because I'm a bit chaotic, usually we try to use the one platform, but I'll also jump on Slack and say, hey, that thing, you know, what about this, right? Like there's like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that comes in, so we don't do too much back and forth, but we will do some. And you're perfectly welcome to put a half-assed idea in, right? So I'm quite good with you going, I'm thinking I want to do this, right? And here's my idea, right? And if you do that, I'll respond, or Ed will respond, or whoever will respond and say, let's talk about it, right? And we'll elaborate it and we'll work it out. We may not do it, that elaboration in confidential. We may go to email or Slack or something like that and talk. But we want to help you turn your idea into the best thing it can be for people. Be brave, throw your ideas out there. In the past, we've kind of gathered a bunch of people to help aggregate the content, try to step away from it, but I don't think I want to do that this year. We'll grab a handful of people to help. But why I'm different to that process is like I want to look at every single piece, and the people that have a half-assed idea, or people have a crazy idea, or people that have never spoken before and don't know how to do a content submission, like I'm actually looking for that. So I want those people on the program. Yeah, so you know, if it's the first time you've ever done it, don't be scared, just get in there, pitch an idea. It's just right to me, right? And all I want to do is help you be successful. So I'll get back in touch and we'll talk about it and figure out the best thing to do. Not everything's going to make the program, but lots will, right? And the other thing is reach out and find other interesting people and bring them along. I hope that was useful. So like I said, we're going to put the slide deck and all the links and the, you know, the good speaking links. We'll chuck them onto the meetup discussion thread. And it'll be there, if not tonight, probably tomorrow. Get in there, get your submissions in there as soon as possible. We're going to run the submission process till probably the first week of June. And at that point, we're going to like, you know, kind of workshop and figure out what there is. So if you've got a half thought through idea, put it in early so we can have that dialogue and like get it to the best it can be. Yeah. All right. Thanks very much for coming in.